Hey guys, today I'm down in Torrance, California with Travis Grady, who's joining us from the Pacific Northwest, and you'll be seeing a lot more of him on camera because he's going to be helping us out with the EV Buyer's Guide channel. We're here today at the American Honda Collection Hall, which you can actually visit down here in Torrance, California. Let's just take a look around and see what you're going to find and introduce Travis to the channel. If you have any burning questions for Travis, just go ahead and pop them down there in the comment section. I'm sure he'll be responding. I knew that Honda started in Southern California, but I didn't know exactly where, and this is a picture of their first building.
Yeah, there's not too much you can do out of here, but these are the motorcycles they first had available when they came to the United States. They said they retrofitted and restored an old Chevy pickup, and that was how they got their vehicles to and from sales locations. So
yeah, because they didn't have dealers yet. There's the Honda 50. My next neighbor actually has a Honda 50. I was never much of a motorcycle person myself, but I do like the technology and the engineering that goes behind them.
they said that Super Cub's got over 100 million units sold and still being built today, so pretty remarkable.
Yeah, obviously not that exact Super Cub. It's a brand new one, right?
I think so. Certainly updated.
Yeah, and then down here we have some of their other motorcycles, the Honda 300, the 750 over here with an insanely wide air-cooled four-cylinder engine. Those were definitely the times, you know.
There's a bit of a theme on those motorcycles here as we go through the
sort of
through the hall. Yeah.
First and second degree burn kind of motorcycles.
Got to watch yourself.
Yeah, and then we're down here in the hall where we have some of their timeline stuff. But this is what I think is more cool and maybe more interesting for the EV channel here, people. This is Honda's first integrated motor assist hybrid setup from the Insight.
Incredibly small, but it was pioneering for its time and has led to a lot of hybrid innovation ever since. Great to see one in person and available to actually view the internals of.
Yeah, I'd actually kind of forgotten somehow that the original Insight was a three-cylinder. I was never the biggest fan of the IMA system. It did work relatively well. It was very fuel efficient, but it was also one of those few manual transmission hybrids that you could actually get. What I always thought was weird was they didn't put a disconnect between the motor and the engine, so when you're driving an electric-only operation, the motor's still spinning.
Well, and they did that manual through to the CRZ as well, which, again, mixed receptions on it, but it's great to see the manual transmission still being implemented as an effort, and again, just to see the technology as it continues to develop.
And if you've ever wondered why Honda likes sports cars so much, perhaps it's because they say their very first car was a sports car. This is the 1965 S600. And just check out how tiny this thing actually is. What do you think? Are you more of an S fan over here, or are you more of the more practical hatch version over here? This definitely is a lot of Japanese Mini going on with this guy.
You know, I love a good hatchback, but I have to say that's a great looking convertible, and as long as my head didn't stick too far above the windshield, I'd probably go with the drop top.
I think I would want one of these somehow. This just looks so, you know, cool and unique and tiny, etc. Then of course we have the beginning of the Civic lineup. This is a 1975 Civic CVCC. Don't worry, they've given us permission to walk behind and show you some of these cars. 1979 Accord. A family friend had an Accord that was very early on, and they didn't really change shape-wise too much for a while.
No, I mean, and it's just an extended Civic from the looks of it, but again, the Accord throughout the years has been an incredibly successful vehicle, and it's great to see where it started.
It's that Accord CVCC thing right there, the Accord LX. This is the Accord that I remember a lot of. What Accord is your childhood Accord?
Well, we're looking at the Prelude right here, which is the first of the Prelude line. I have to say that I was a mid-90s Accord individual.
Okay.
And loved them all the way up through the coupes. It was one of the last surviving coupes and sedan combinations to still be out there.
I know some people are offended by calling it an Accord, but to me the Prelude will always be an Accord, but hey.
To each their own, I suppose.
But this one also I thought was epic. You know, the funky hatch Civic thing with what on earth is going on here?
The Civic wagon with available later on all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. I don't remember which, but
it was epically strange. Because if you come in for a look, it's not just that this module is huge, it's actually got Safari windows. So, I mean, check that out. It's got Safari glass there right on top. So, I don't know, maybe your dog, or I'm not clear who would be looking through that glass, but it's got one.
It's a lot of space, and you had it if you wanted it.
Yeah, and then there were a ton of these, rolling around when I was a kid. I remember a lot of Civic coupes as the CRX.
CRX and CRX SI. Went into the early 90s only, but made that return in theory as the CRZ. Never quite as successful, but great to see another coupe
Yeah,
in action.
definitely great to see another one. This one didn't have the Safari windows, which is kind of funny.
No, we're looking at the 86 Civic Si, the first Civic Si. I was telling Alex earlier that the first car I ever drove was an 89 Civic hatchback, so very reminiscent of my first time behind the wheel.
Yeah, and I remember a lot of this generation Civic and this Prelude. Like, to me, this is what Prelude is this right here.
Yeah, 1999, I believe, is when they changed to this body style. They added the SH super handling to it, and it's a really great shape that I think has aged really, really well.
Yeah, and if you want to have us drive a classic, well, I guess almost, I mean, it's actually probably old enough to be a classic. Apparently, the press is allowed to drive this specific CRV now and again. So if you ever want a review of a 1997 CRV, one of the cute utes that helped start the whole segment that is booming in America right now, let us know, because theoretically Honda will just toss us the keys to that.
Yeah, they said it has about 250,000 miles in that particular model and still going strong. So right here we have the Honda Insight, which was the cutout of the engine we saw previously. And it was very much a purpose-built machine. It was all about efficiency. And it did its job very well, but not everyone was on board with it.
Yeah, I mean, it did get 53 city and 60 miles per gallon highway, but that was the very generous old cycle. Apparently, if this was rated on the current fuel economy cycle, the highway rating especially would take a pretty substantial tumble down to more like modern Prius kind of fuel economy, which is admittedly still pretty good, but of course this is a two-seat coupe, and I stand next to that so you can see really how small that original Insight was.
And if I can, you'll
not big.
You'll see that wheel cover that Honda continued to use through the Clarity as well,
Yeah.
at least for some time. Maybe not as popular, but just small innovations to try and get the most range out of a small engine.
I mean, the cargo area back there was actually pretty sizable for a two-seat vehicle. You know, it just didn't end up selling well logically because two-seat vehicles don't sell well. You know, underpowered vehicles don't sell well, etc. It was really an interesting exercise though in fuel efficiency.
There were
And
things
then,
working against it, but
yeah,
it's got
then we
a
have
huge
the
following.
legendary S2000.
The
That has
CR
aged-
Cafe Racer.
Yeah, this has aged extraordinarily well to my eye. I really wish that someday Honda would resurrect the S2000. And you know, to be honest, all they would need to do is give this a new interior, and I think this exact look would work for a modern car. Just give it LED headlights.
What do you think about spoiler on the Cafe Racer Edition versus no spoiler?
You know, I would go with no spoiler. I think the S2000 looked a little bit better with no spoiler. I really, really, really wanted an S2000 for quite some time, but I could never find one that was not just absolutely beat to hell.
It's similar to that Prelude in that the styling was fairly subtle and I think has aged really well.
I think it's aged better than that Prelude, though. Let us know what you think, guys, down there in the comment section. Prelude or S2000? Are you Prelude or S2000? Or are you 2021 Civic Type R LE? That was obviously the last generation Civic Type R.
Which is not nearly as subtle as those two we just mentioned.
No. And you know what? It definitely is fun in its own right, but I would really love an S2000 to come back. Even if it didn't have that kind of power, but was rear-wheel drive, somehow I think that would just be more my style.
Power is great, but fun to drive is really important as well.
So when you think Acura, do you think MDX or do you think Legend?
I tend to think MDX.
I would agree with you, but you know, there was the legendary Legend.
I also, you can see on the screen behind us, they're talking about the TL and TSX.
Oh, yeah?
A love for the TLs as well.
This is that era of brown, you know, brown, what do we call this? Brown velour interiors and amber frosted tinted windows kind of thing. I mean, that was an interesting era where we had this very brown on brown on brown theme going on there.
One of the things they mentioned as we walked around was that most of these vehicles are previously owned, so none of them are saved for the collection. And it's great to see the condition that all of these are in. They've held up incredibly well. I'm sure some light restoration, but it's great to see those interiors as they were the day you bought them.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that's what a lot of car companies seem to do with their collections. They don't hold models back, generally speaking, for museum use later. Rather, they just, you know, find one on the used market that's in really excellent condition, and that's what they have. And that includes this 1991 Acura NSX.
Now, when you ask me what I think of Acura MDX or Legend, I tend to think of the NSX. Absolutely, to my mind, one of the most perfect sports cars ever built. It's all about balance. It's got the speed, but it's not top end. But it was the supercar you could drive every day.
Yeah, this was actually the first supercar I ever drove, and it was in the 90s. A guy I used to work for bought an NSX, and today that seems, it's couched differently because this NSX, yes, it was expensive at the time, but it was considerably more affordable compared to the last generation NSX that we saw. So if you take a look at the number of Honda Accords you have to buy to equal the price tag of one NSX, the current one was pretty expensive, and this was a lot closer to something like the Corvette right now.
I can't say I've heard that scale used, Accord to NSX purchase ratio, but I think it has its merits.
And then Integra Type R, of course, the 2001 MDX.
Which
kind of
didn't come in Phoenix yellow.
Yeah, but it was kind of the vehicle that helped start that luxury three-row segment.
Well, and the lineup of Acura SUVs has just continued to grow and hopefully continues in the future. Alex, what do you have in front of you?
This is a Honda Cubby engine. Honda makes more engines than any other company in the world, but a lot of them are small engines. This one was one of their original demonstration engines. It was designed to give students something they could assemble and disassemble. It didn't do anything other than actually run, but they also have in this museum a lineup of all the other various kinds of engines that Honda makes, including their very first generator. This is absolutely adorable. This is a 40-watt generator. Rumor mill says it was designed to power the original Sony portable TV. That is adorable, and it obviously spawned what a lot of people think about when it comes to Honda generators, which are these portable series of generators. 300 watts, we then have a 400-watt generator. This is actually the current one, so I can touch it. This is a 3,200-watt inverter generator, and I was actually surprised because I had a Honda 3,000-watt inverter generator about 10 years ago. It was much bigger than this. It has really shrunk down quite a lot. Then, of course, we have their big 7,000-watt generator. When people think Honda engines, even if you don't own a Honda car, a lot of people think lawnmowers, they think generators. So of course, Honda brought along a lawnmower. This is the only car museum I can think of with a lawnmower in it, or a weed whacker, or a water pump, kind of odd twist there. If you don't own a Honda lawnmower, most likely your lawnmower is going to have a Briggs & Stratton or a Honda motor on it, something along those lines. Of course, they're outboard motors as well. This is one of their first marine outboard engines, 1964 CB30. I think this was the original family, but this is not the first engine, obviously, they made. And this is more of a modern 2016. So yeah, so if you're interested in all things Honda, and if you're interested in some cars and coffee kind of events, apparently they're going to be hosting them here in the Honda collection down here in, where are we again?
We're in Torrance.
Torrance, California. I want to say Irvine for some reason, but we're in the Orange Counties. We're in Southern California. And for the people on the East Coast, I'm sure it's just all Los Angeles. So that's where we are here. So what do you think, Travis?
Well, I think we should stop over and check out the racing section.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wander that way. So what do we have over here?
So they've got a mix of some of their racing bikes off to our left, but some of the racing cars as well. Right in front of us, they mentioned a side-by-side prototype race potential.
Oh, yeah, Turbo Talon.
Up here we have your Acura Integras, you've got your Indy cars, you've got your Le Mans spec, I believe, including up in the very top left, customer racers from days gone by.
Yeah, look at that thing. SCCA stickers on this old Civic with quite a lot of work done on it. You know, not the classiest work, I will admit, but that's pretty cool.
This is one of the ones they chose not to restore. They took it in as is and thought this is just about perfect as it sat.
Yeah, it definitely has that patina, shall we say.
Absolutely.
And this one is an electric go-kart. I did not know that this existed, and what intrigues me about this is if I go over to this other post, the 4-post lift, you can see it actually has an EGX electric motor on the back there, because Honda has a line of swap-inable electric motors that you can use in things that use a GX series gasoline engine.
And to the left and right of the seat there, you have the HPD boxes, and those are apparently a joint venture swappable battery that you can charge, plug in at terminals, and grab another one while that one's busy charging.
Yep. Also cool over here, we have the start of the quad. Obviously this was a trike, not a quad, but when you think of ATVs, the single person ATV quad things, this is the origin story of that. This is one of the very first Honda vehicles. This has a 3.5-inch wheel. Look how absolutely tiny that wheel is in there. And that's because it didn't have a suspension, apparently. It just used the cushion from those pneumatic tires. So Look at this. This is a 22 by 11 by 3.5 tire. That is pretty hilarious.
If I had to take either that Turbo Talon or this for a spin, I'd probably start with this. It's hard to say no.
Yeah, I would want to take that ATC 90 because, you know, I would want to see where that could go, you know, on the trails that I have at home.
Absolutely. And then up here they have the start of the Goldwing line.
Yeah.
Which
Boxer
has been,
engine, four-cylinder.
It's been an incredibly popular motorcycle for many, many years, and as just this lineup shows, gone through a number of engine configurations as well.
I still know some people that have a 1970s Express kind of banging around here and there. That just looks absolutely ridiculous when you then compare it to this Super Sport right next to it with an inline-six air-cooled engine. Talk about a wide engine there.
With age, these vehicles seem to grow, but this was the first motorcycle to get 100 horsepower, and it's got a significantly larger engine than that little one.
Yeah, they got a whole lot of motorcycles. You know, it's easy to pack motorcycles into something like this museum, obviously, than a whole lot more cars, because there are definitely other Honda museums around elsewhere with you know, definitely some more interesting models, I would say, than the ones that are available here. But this is a good selection.
They said they have up to 80, but are only in this space able to display about 30. So it sounds like they'll do some rotations, and there was a conversation about hosting cars and coffee and bikes events here. So hopefully throughout the years, we'll see more of that collection that they've got available.
Yeah, if you want some of the newer and crazier Honda motorcycles, they definitely have some of those there. 2000 Rune, and then of course a 2010 Goldwing. You can see that things have definitely grown quite a lot since that first Goldwing back there.
And then from here, things get a little more interesting. Just off to our left, we've got the prototype vehicles, mostly meant for automated use, factory use, all of these being electric, but it's great to see what Honda is working on for the future.
Yeah, this is not the Honda Prologue, in case you're wondering. The Prologue is not based on this little moon buggy thing.
No, I think certainly an entirely different design.
So as always, thanks everybody for watching, and thanks Travis for joining us. He's located up in the Pacific Northwest, and you'll be seeing a lot more of him on the EV channel, and of course occasionally here on the main channel as well.
Yeah, see you on EV Buyer's Guide soon.
See everybody later.